Hey folks, it's time that we discussed all your feedback. I want some more. Give it. I've got Sovereign and Caesar here with me.
Hello.
Broadly speaking, we've been paying a little bit of attention to some things that you've said, and not others. Those of you who've cheated stations in, looking at you.
Yes, we know how. I will demonstrate right now. This is how you cheat things in.
Here we go. Hey, I can just look
I
at
feel
your
like
screen.
I need more Aries. True Aries spam.
Is there a plural to
Aries.
Aries?
I don't know. Probably
Aries
not,
is
'cause
is Airi?
it's a proper noun. Generally, those don't get plurals. I don't know. Anyway, I've already derailed the stream.
I like it. I
My
like
job
it.
here is complete.
Yeah, you know how I feel about streams being derailed. Anyway, it's my sole purpose to exist. So a lot of the feedback has, I think the first thing that we should probably address is speeds. A lot of the feedback that we've had has been to do with, as your fleet grows, the speeds that they travel. Particularly in areas that are considered dangerous, which means there's an enemy ship of some form in said area. Gravity wells. I think that's a legitimate complaint, and the dev team has agreed that that is a legitimate complaint. It's not something that we really picked up on so much from our own playthroughs, but we can see where the community is coming from. So we made some changes in that regard. Have we not?
Yeah.
In a couple of ways.
Yes.
First, if we press G to go to gameplay constants, I think it's in gameplay constants, isn't it?
Yes, it is.
And I'll just search for speed because I think it's. No, that's not the one. No.
Here we are.
no,
Physics data.
Ship physics data. Is that the one?
Yep. Physics data. Yep.
Well, we've got some scalars here anyway. That's basically your options, what you choose.
This one is not the options. No.
No, that one particularly. But I'm showing people on my screen what various bits are. But you also have there's a word for safe, isn't there? In there.
Yeah, the physics data I'm looking at here. It's ship linear max speed while safe scalar, and
Yeah,
it
there
also
you go.
applies to acceleration and deceleration. And basically, it means when there are no enemy ships in the grav well. So if it's owned by you or if it's neutral, and there are no enemies, the ships will go much faster. You're probably used to this from both AOTF and SJ3.
I think other mods use this feature to a limited extent as well.
None quite so extremely as we do, though.
No, that's right, and I think it was too extreme.
Yes.
So
This
ships.
was 3.0 before.
Yeah, this was
and
3
it's
before.
been
We've
cut
moved that down to 2.5. But in order to compensate for that, we've moved the base speed of all ships up by, 80?
80, yes.
So all of the playable ships are now 80 faster than they were previously.
Which is roughly a 50% speed boost. It's quite a lot, actually.
In some instances, yeah. I mean, there are some that it's less.
Yeah. The ones that were already fast benefited slightly less, but still, stuff is moving a lot faster when there are enemies present, so you shouldn't have to wait for half an hour for your fleets to actually get to combat range now.
That's right. And in line with that, we looked at everything that might have a speed impact on your ships. One was, of course, the death ball, or the anti-death ball mechanic. That slows your ships down somewhat when you've got a large fleet all very close to one another. The effect of that was slightly lessened, I believe.
I believe I took it from 5% to 2.5%.
So that's been lessened a little bit. And when your ships are damaged, if you've got everything set to move together, this is particularly the case. When your ships are damaged, they previously were getting a speed nerf anyway, up to 40%.
I think it was 60% once they got below 25% hull.
Damn. And we've removed that entirely because we want to make retreat a legitimate strategy. So if you want to retreat your ships, you shouldn't be punished for having ships at low health trying to retreat. And you've swapped that around a little bit. You want to show us a little bit? Bimla, thank you very much for subscribing.
Yes.
Do you want to show us a little bit of what you've changed?
We had a bit of a chat, and we decided to make some faction-specific modifiers on these, actually. So what we've got here on the Federation one is that it'll hit your ability cooldown rate first, but it will actually increase the acceleration at the first step. And as you get more damaged as a Federation ship, you get more speed, but less damage output overall. This is to help the Feds to retreat their ships when things are going badly.
Mm-hmm.
So if you're paying attention and you feel like microing ships out as they get focused, you can absolutely do that with the Federation.
Which I think the really good players, they say that that's a good tactic anyway, don't they?
Yes. The Klingons got
I'm not
something
one of them.
slightly different. Let me just quickly cheat a Klingon ship in here. So the Klingon one got changed as well. It loses its speed penalty as well, but rather than giving them bonus speed to run away, we decided to give them bonus damage as the ship got more heavily damaged at the cost of survivability. So the more you shoot up a Klingon ship, the squishier it gets, but the more damage it's outputting, because it's a good day to die, folks.
Mm-hmm. And while retreat is still going to be a legitimate strategy for Klingons, sometimes you might just want to keep them in combat because you'll end up killing more than you would do otherwise.
Yeah.
And I think we had an idea for the Romulans as well, since we're now starting to work on those.
Yes, that's not been implemented yet, but I'm thinking probably give them more shield regen, because they're going to be focused around shields overall anyway, to help them either survive longer, or if they retreat that particular ship, they can potentially turn it around and get back into battle faster by bringing its shields up, even without repairing the hull. That's
right, so just moving it out of the direct combat zone in the same gravity well, and allowing the shields to come back online might be a viable tactic. So that's, I suppose, even more micro-intensive in some ways, isn't it? Moving it within the gravity well.
Yeah.
But still, I think that'll be an
Romulans,
interesting tactic.
We don't mind making you micro Romulans a bit.
So we'll see how that ends up. Hey, K-Shizzle, how you doing? We will see how that ends up, and we're going to want feedback on that as well once we release those changes. That's the primary piece of feedback that we were really concerned with, and I think it was very good feedback that we received. There are a number of other things, bugs and stuff, that have already been fixed. Any other piece of feedback that you were worried about?
Me?
Yeah.
There was something with the Klingon tech tree that's been slightly nerfed a little bit. Let's see if I can find the change race command, so I can show it off. There it is. Whoops, we still have...
Oh, Lord.
We have quite a few...
Why have we got stock factions in there? What happened there?
I don't know. We really need to get rid of those at some point. It might be faster to... here we go. Player cling. Right. This tech here, ceaseless production, gives you a bonus to your build speeds on ships and structures at the cost of upkeep. This used to be one tier earlier at tier 3, and it used to be a bonus of 10% per level. I've dropped that down to 7.5% and moved it a tier later because I had some feedback from some industrial-focused players who rightly pointed out that it helps the Klingons to massively outproduce the Federation once they've both got their economies going properly.
Yeah, I mean, it is, of course, dependent on their economies, and the Klingon economy in general is a bit worse than the Federation one. But if you get to the point where you've got a good economy, you'd be hard pressed to keep up as the Feds.
Yeah. Because once you get to a certain point, money is not so much of an issue as build time is, and this helps their build time quite a bit. So it's been nerfed a bit. It's still going to be quite impactful, as it should be for an upkeep costing tech, but it's not quite as scary as it was.
You say that now.
I'm sure I'm still going to get plenty of complaints about that one.
Oh, no doubt, no doubt. Other things that have been kind of fed back, and these are minor things comparative to those changes. Suliban, one of their abilities is a bit broken, as Hobbs found out to his cost in a match that we had.
His life.
But yes, I will be looking at the minor faction abilities again and making sure that they're actually balanced, because right now they're not.
Yeah.
Oh, and given what you've got on the screen right now, fighters, yeah.
Yes. People have been telling me that fighters are scary. Yes, they are, but I still maintain that you're not using enough anti-fighter. But besides the point, I've also added an antimatter cost onto building Stratcraft. So as you can see, the Kelvin has 150 antimatter. If I queue up 4 of these, it now only has 50. So each shuttle costs 25 antimatter. It gives the carriers something to spend their antimatter on, since they tend to have a lot of passive abilities. And it also limits their ability to replace losses if you don't keep them supplied.
That's right.
Raises the value of said anti-fighter craft.
And we're also we very much know that the Sin's AI likes to spam carriers. It absolutely adores fighters, and therefore it spams carriers with a preference over nearly anything else, really.
Yeah, it's not our fault.
No, that isn't our fault. But we may have a way that we can minimise the impact of carrier spam. There are 2 things in ship files, which I'll show off myself here. Probably. Bed. Ooh, scroll. Cruiser carrier. Cruiser carrier. There we are. Alright, so this is the file for the Kelvin. I'll make that bigger for you. Now, there are towards the top somewhere, we've got a stat type and a roll type. There it is. Frigate roll type, carrier, stat count type, frigate carrier. We can play around with those a little bit, which is quite nice. And if we do play around with those a little bit, make it think it's a utility cruiser, for example, then it will build less of them. Despite the fact that it will still have the carrier capabilities, and it will still operate as a carrier in many ways. The AI will be less inclined to build it because of the role type change. So we'll do a little bit of experimentation with that before we implement anything, and see what we come up with to try and ensure that you get, that the AI build a more balanced fleet.
Let's get a nice large map up here.
And while he's doing that, I'm going to have a bit of a mess around.
Ah, what's this?
What's what? Found.
This?
Oh, yeah, I was just about to show that off as well. So, we've started work on the Romulans. Oh, nice.
Indeed.
And I'm quite looking forward to seeing what we come up with here. It's going to be quite fun. You can see that not a lot of our strings have been done. And at this point, sorry, Orion.
Yeah, there's a lot of unfinished stuff. We've only been putting a couple of days in, so...
Yeah, and stations haven't really been done yet. Although we do have the assets. So we've got the models. We just haven't implemented them in game yet. And by we, I mean Max.
Yes, naturally.
Because up until this point, we haven't needed to implement them. Hasn't been a priority. But I think he's got quite a lot of the stuff that he wanted done with regards to making the textures the way that he wants them and all that good stuff.
Yep, he's started prettying up all of the little small ships. They're starting to look very, very nice.
Yeah. Oh, Varsel seems quite happy. Says, "Yay, Roms." Hey, Bob, how you doing? And I think they're the main pieces of feedback that we've really had that kind of need addressing. Oh no! I was running over my my wire.
There is another piece of feedback that is yet to be addressed, but will be addressed, and that is the D5T tanker on the Klingon roster.
Oh yeah, it didn't have the ability.
It's going to get an antimatter refill ability.
Yeah, I always thought it did have one, which is why I wasn't concerned about it. But now that I've learned that it didn't,
it's not going to be the greatest antimatter refill. It's not going to be anything next to the Kobayashi, but it will be there.
Oh, Ryan's in the chat. Hi, Ryan. If you want to join the call, you're welcome to, by the way. He says Romulan strings will be done pretty quickly. There you go.
That's good. So I don't know how many people will have noticed this, but on my screen you'll be seeing some slight differences with the map. Max has put some work in.
I was about to show this as well. I think what I'll do is
you're not going fast enough here.
Good God, you're mad. I will briefly show your screen, and then I'll show it on my own screen because the quality that I get from your screen isn't going to be good for the stream.
True.
So what you're seeing here, folks, is little color-coded map now. We've changed the way that these display a little bit. Anything green is something that you can colonize. Yellow are things that you can't colonize but aren't particularly dangerous. And red are naughty places, either because they've got a lot of naughty men in them, or because they do bad things to your ships.
Yes. I believe blue is planets that can be colonized with research.
In fact, I think if you hover over a planet, do you try hovering over a planet that you own? Have we implemented that? I
don't know.
I think it needs to be on the planet itself. I'm not sure.
Oh, that.
There it is. Yes.
Yes, we have.
So we've got a little key there. If you hover over the picture, that says these are colonizable immediately. These need research to be colonized. These aren't colonizable, and these are a bit dangerous.
Yes.
Oh, bye, Fab.
What else was I going to say? I was going to mention that Max has also put some work into the nebulas, and they're looking very pretty. He'll let Gull show it off on the fancier screen.
Hopefully mine is loaded in now. Heard a beep. Oh.
And the nebulas will have interesting abilities on them when I get around to coding them.
So let's have a look at this one. Unstable asteroid field here. I think we had an unstable asteroid field before.
Yes, that one's old. Still doing the same thing it always does.
Let's see what else I've got here. Metrion Nebula. I think we may have had that before, but it's...
Max has redone the particles on all the nebulas.
Mm-hmm.
They're more nebulary.
One thing that I am noting is we probably want to look at the nebulas and what spawns inside said nebulas, because they're just going to get killed anyway.
Most of them are not going to have anything spawning in them.
Yeah, so that's something that we do need to change.
Yeah, anything like particularly hazardous is set to just not have any ships in it, because the thing is hazardous in its own right, so there's no need to have things trying to kill you in it beyond the thing itself.
Mm-hmm. And we've also had feedback, some people suggesting that the planetary defenders are in some instances a little bit weaker than they would like. We'll take that under advisement and we'll do some more testing. I don't want to do anything... Pew pew. Sorry, I don't want to do anything knee-jerk with that, really. And the reason I don't want to do anything knee-jerk with it is by virtue of the fact that we need to work out whether it's balanced solely or whether it also includes the outlaw sectors factions.
And another factor playing into it is that a lot of them don't have abilities yet. Anyone who's run into a a Vulcan garrison will know that they're absolutely lethal, and that's because they've all got abilities on them. Whereas a lot of the neutrals are completely lacking in that.
Yeah, there has been some concern addressed about kind of frame lag when you're zooming in on a new system. I'm sure I can demonstrate a little bit. Let's
Build a
try.
few new capital ships and zoom in on them.
Yeah, there you go. So there is a little bit of frame lag when you're zooming in on new assets for the first time. Typically, we find that happens, but once we zoom out and then zoom back in again, it's quite smooth, as you can see. So it needs to load them into active memory once. Oh, got a little bit there. In order for it to be nice and smooth. We are aware that that's a bit of an issue. That's primarily down to CPU choking. We've got high quality assets, so better, more refined models than we had in STA3. The textures, by and large, are bigger as well, which does mean that there is a little bit more lag that first time that you zoom in on a lot of things. I recognise that that's not ideal for some of the community with slightly worse CPUs, and I'm sorry about that, but it's a trade-off. It is very, very much a trade-off, and I don't know if we want to lessen the quality of things at this point. If it becomes a synonymous problem, and there is widespread concern over it, then it's something that we can look at in the future. Right now, I don't think we're going to take any action on that, because once you're already zoomed in and you're in a battle, it's okay. Hey, Lucian, how you doing? I'm hearing psychotic typing.
Yes, somebody on the AOTF chat in the Discord has asked, who said, "This is the first mod I've played that has had very little to no mini dumps. What exactly causes a mini dump with mods?" Everything.
Letting go code. Letting go code is the general thing. Also, Caesar, I don't know if Caesar's still here, but he was muted a little while ago. Hello.
Yeah,
I was
almost
muted- I was
any
muted
code
last time,
error.
it's just being polite.
You don't need to be polite.
Almost
Just
any
get in
code
there.
error will cause a mini dump or a runtime error. There's a lot that can cause problems, and sometimes they're very hard to track down as well.
That's very, very true. Sometimes when there's too much going on, it can cause a mini dump, and it would cause a mini dump to one person and it wouldn't to another. Those type of mini dumps, they're what I would call hardware-related mini dumps, and they're quite unfortunate because it's generally a rule of thumb to cater to the lowest common denominator when it comes to PCs. So you take the worst PC that should be able to run it and make sure that it runs okay on that. I think the goalposts have moved a little bit when it comes to sins. Modding specifically. A good example of that is previously, so up until update 1.91, for sins, I want to say 1.91, you could only use 2 gigabytes of RAM unless you used something called large address aware with it. Large address aware is now part of the sins, or it's been implemented within the sins engine, so you can use up to 4 gigabytes of RAM. We're on the higher end of RAM usage. I think we use about 3.1 or 3.2 gigabytes on really big maps in AOTF. And as a player, if you are, say, running Windows 10, that's already taking about, well, in some cases, a gigabyte of RAM, right? Away from you. So you might find that if you've got 4 gigabytes of RAM, you've got a Google Chrome page open, you've got a couple of other things working away in the background, and you're running AOTF, you might find that your computer sometimes struggles a little bit. So I would say the goalposts have moved. If you've only got 2 gigabytes of RAM in your machine and it's quite an old one, it's probably not going to run AOTF with any great degree of success, I'm afraid to say. Hey girl, do you want some sweets? I do want some sweets. Do you know I never got those sweets that I was talking about. Anyway.
Why would you deprive yourself so, girl? That's terrible.
It got too late.
I don't know.
Other changes that we're thinking that we will be making soon is, hopefully soon, we will have another hover over implemented on ships. So if you click on a ship, that's not a very good example because we haven't put anything in there yet.
You on Romulans?
Yep.
Yeah, you might want to spawn a Fed or a Klingon one in.
Yeah, okay. Can't remember how to spawn things. Spawn entity, active player. Nope. Federation, and it doesn't really matter which one. Let's be like the AI and spawn a carrier.
Everybody loves carriers.
Oh god, there are Romulan beam defense platforms.
Are they?
They're not Romulan beam defense platforms. They're
Advent.
they're Advent ones. Anyway, so this guy here, you can see that it's already got. It says what kind of class it is. Role like carrier. When you hover over this with a ship selected, soon it will tell you what class of ships is good against other classes of ships.
Yes.
Or at least
quite
that's
important.
our intent anyway.
Because there's quite significant modifiers with weapon and damage type and armor types, and there's no way to see it
I
without
like it. This green shield did
digging into the files, which obviously is not good. So we want to help you to understand which ships are good for what and why.
Okay, good. Let's zoom out of that because it's the Advent stock stuff is driving me insane. We found a lot of people are saying, "Oh, we're being utterly destroyed by," a good example, Klingon capital ships. In relatively early game, what can we do? Well, the AI kind of has a predisposition for certain types of ships. If you know the hard counters to those certain types of ships, then you'll be able to build a fleet that, while it may appear inferior on paper, it'll be able to trounce them. And the same could be said for other players as well. If you have a good idea about, say, the makeup, say I'm playing Caesar. One, I'm not going to win anyway, but quite aside from that, if I'm playing Caesar and I see what his fleet makeup is, I might be able to come up with a certain tactic where I build ships in response to what he's got, so my fleet will beat his.
Yes, like if he spams Ares, like he so loves doing, you can spam Hermes and kill them from afar.
And that's exactly it. And without looking into the code, we are aware that it's perhaps not clear enough to players what's good against what right now. While we've said it in a lot of streams, I don't think we've got any strong documentation that says what's good against what. So you will get that little picture down here that you can hover over and have a little key that says this is good against this, this is good against this. And it's a bit like rock, paper, scissors, lizard, Spock, isn't it? I think we made that comparison the other day.
Yes.
There was indeed a comparison to that the other day, yes.
That's our intent for that, to make usability a little bit better. Oh look, the Enterprise is by itself. Will it get killed?
Oh, do we want to answer the heroes question again?
Right, will there be any heroes that can be rebuildable? No. Simply put, this Enterprise NX-01, theoretically, it's actually not, but theoretically it's supposed to be identical to any other NX.
Oh, it is now.
Oh, it is now. You fixed that. Good.
Yes.
So losing this and building another NX in its place, just mean it. Well, it technically means nothing in any way, shape, or form. You will find that you have exactly the same tactical capacity, and partially for that reason, we're not going to bother with heroes in this version. We didn't feel that it was something that we really wanted to do.
We'd kind of be reaching to find enough to make it interesting, character-wise.
Yeah, I mean, we could have made one hero for each faction, potentially. Does that justify having the additional station and that whole code gubbins in order to make sure that you can have more than one at once? We didn't think it did. And we also didn't think that at this stage, having unusual, unique abilities would be overly preferable by virtue of the fact that the way that we're trying to work this mod is that all your ship's abilities are really important anyway. So unlike the Corbomite Reflector, the really good Corbomite Reflector that Picard gets in STA3, which is unusually good. Any abilities that heroes get, they wouldn't seem all that fantastical in comparison in this mod. So,
Unless we made them completely game-breaking, which
we don't want to do. Yeah.
Speaking of interesting abilities, this is a nice segue to something I've been working on. It's not really been in the feedback because the state of it's been more mediocre than really bad, and mediocre things tend not to get called out that often.
No, hopefully they will do as we move forward. Though we've got more competitive players playing than we thought we had, so I think we'll get better feedback as a result of that.
Yes, although a few people have mentioned that the Ares seemed a bit underwhelming. Well, this one is a particular example. The problem is throughout several other ships, but the Ares is a good example because all 4 of its abilities were really boring. This is not in the... I haven't pushed this build yet, girls. You might need to switch to my screen.
I already have. Don't you worry about that.
Oh, he's onto it.
Professional broadcaster right here.
So yes.
Stop Eurovision.
I've been improving the abilities. It's not so much meant for buffing them, although it has been buffed, as it is for making them more interesting and putting a little bit more thought into when you might want to use them. So power to weapons is a good example. It used to be 5% damage output for 5% less acceleration.
Which is...
Ooh, who cares?
Yeah, it wouldn't have any overall effect in the outcome of a battle.
Yeah, you're not going to notice it. So what I've changed it to is at level 1, it'll be 20% damage output with a 20% max speed reduction and a 2% damage mitigation loss. So that's quite meaningful increase in damage, particularly once you, let me just cheat it up to level 10. Once you level it to max level, at which point it's a 50% bonus damage for a 50% loss in speed and 5% mitigation loss. Which also means if the enemy sees that you're using it, they might target the Ares to kill it faster, since it's more vulnerable while it's doing this.
Yeah, so not only does it present an advantage, it also presents an opportunity for the enemy if you use that particular ability. And that's kind of a cornerstone about the way that you code, I find. Just looking at many of you already know, but Echo's also, I think you're the lead coder, aren't you, for Dawn of the Reapers?
Only coder.
Only coder. He's the only coder
Yes.
for Dawn of the Reapers. One of the cornerstones of his coding practices that I found really inventive and really good for Dawn of the Reapers. Check out the mod, by the way, if you haven't already. Is that not only did he present a lot of advantages in the way that he made abilities and some researches, but he also presented certain disadvantages as well. Or potential disadvantages that could be exploited. And that I found to be really quite innovative, because I don't think a lot of mods do that at this point. So, good on you.
Well,
I mean,
thank you.
just because I'm British, you're still a cock, though. Got to balance it.
Yeah, well,
It's all about balance.
So, anyway, moving on, swiftly onwards to the next one. Fire at Will was even more boring, with a whopping 5% fire rate increase per cast. Who cares? That is totally not worth 100 antimatter. So, therefore, I've boosted it to 10% weapon cooldown per level.
That's good.
But also introduced increase in chance to hit and chance to bypass enemy shields, which can create some really big critical hits if you get torpedoes through their shields, for example.
That's true, yeah. And the chance to hit is very good because it might well mitigate some of the problems that you're having as a result of having a larger fleet. So that's quite useful as well.
Or the problems of having it heavily damaged.
Yep.
Advanced EPS used to just be 4% damage output per level. Now
they really were boring abilities, weren't they? I didn't realise they were so shite. Did I code them? I must have done.
I have no idea, but the Ares was the most boring ship in the fleet, which is not cool because this is one of the most iconic ships in the Federation fleet in this era, and it needs to be fun, and it needs to feel advanced and powerful. So advanced EPS now gives max shield points, damage output, and shield restoration.
Nice.
And new hull design is an interesting one. It used to just give 1 point of armor per level. It now also gives acceleration and warp speed. So if you can get a couple of levels into this on several Ares, you could make quite a potent raiding group that can outrun their enemies really consistently, because it's already one of the faster capital ships. And warp speed can be remarkably potent when you use it right.
Okay, I've just got a couple of comments here. Devin notes that we're friends on Steam. Hi, Devin. Yeah, we are. I accept all covers. And Samuel wanted to say, fantastic job on making the mod, which is tactically distinctive from STA3. He really liked STA3, but he's glad it's not just a reskin of STA3. So, yeah, thanks for that. It's something that we really wanted to make this quite different to STA3, and I think we've achieved that. AOTF isn't perfect yet by any stretch of the imagination, which is why we need a lot of feedback. But I think, I think the feedback that we've had so far on this initial beta release has been really valuable. Right, sorry, please do continue.
Yes, so this kind of continues throughout quite a few ships, and I have a list of things to do. I haven't done very many of the other ones yet, but I am working away at it. Naturally, I buffed the crossfield because...
Oh god, what? The crossfield is so good. It's so good. It makes me sad.
I should do a ship highlight on it. It's probably one of my favorite ships for its functionality as well as it looks good.
Don't worry, I'll have a look once Echo pushes it and potentially...
And cry.
Bad Echo, slap.
Einar says, have you seen the new Miranda in the New Horizons mod for Stellaris? No, I haven't. I'll have a look. Have they posted some pictures of that, have they? Oh god, there it is.
Mostly I just buffed the passive that it has available, dense storage, because it was competing with such good abilities, and it usually does compete with good abilities even in the other factions. So now it reduces the antimatter cost of the abilities as well as increasing the cooldown.
Okay.
I wanted to make it just improve maximum antimatter, but there is not actually a modifier for that, so sadness.
Isn't there? Isn't that weird?
Yeah, I mean, you'd think they've got maximum for everything else, but not antimatter. It's weird.
Very odd.
In base game, Titans have a bonus to max antimatter in one of their abilities.
But that's not an ability. That's a Titan upgrade.
Okay, of course
Jibril
it's
is
different.
asking a question here, which is quite important. He says, "Is there a
Welcome to
reason?"
Sins.
He says, "Is there a reason why most capital ships can't auto-use abilities?" He finds it a bit frustrating when he's got multiple capitals in a fleet and he just wants to watch the battle happening. I can get that. The reason that we chose initially, nothing auto-used its abilities, nothing at all, and that was our one of the core concepts for the mod initially. But we chose to allow frigates and cruisers to auto-use abilities by virtue of the fact that we didn't feel that it was possible to micro 40 ships at once, or at least not easily anyway. Some of the amazingly good players probably could, but I certainly couldn't. I'm very much a mediocre player, and I found it difficult to even get close to competing with somebody who was better than me as a result of that. So we changed it to allow autocast, as you would call it, on frigates and cruisers. Capital ships, because their abilities are very good, we wanted the player to be able to choose when to use and when not to use them, because that's if you're in a PvP situation, there's an element of player skill involved there as to using your abilities at the right time and in the right situation, which can be the difference between winning and losing a battle. So that's why you can't autocast capital ship abilities.
So
we may in the future make
a
a sub mod. We do recognise that a lot of people play single player and they just like to watch it happen. I might make a sub mod at some point in the future for autocasting cap ships. But I'd only recommend that that's used on single player, not multiplayer, because it takes away the whole player skill equation.
And it's because it's not just about player skill. It's about, by knowing that the ability must be used by a human, I can make the abilities more powerful. Because if it's auto-casted, it's just going to happen on whatever criteria it is happening on. Whereas I want player micro to feel very rewarding, which is why I make such powerful abilities. Like target weapons, for example, disabling enemy weapons for a while has a huge impact on the battle. And so when you use this ability manually, you feel really good about it, compared to if you just let it autocast.
Much like EA, we wanted to give you a sense of pride and accomplishment in when you use your abilities.
Oh my god. No, go. What? Why? I feel terrible now.
We'll be introducing loot boxes in the next version.
I mean, technically the Ferengi already give you random drops when you use that ability, and it costs credits too, so kind of already have them.
There you go. Loot boxes confirmed. Let's just see what else people are saying. Michael Danks is saying, "Great mod, guys, enjoying it immensely. Wondering if you've been having any issues with multiplayer matches. Can't seem to get it working on multiplayer correctly. This is because we've got certain things that are tuned specifically to version 1.94. We have noted, in fact, I can show you here. We have noted that a lot of people who opted into the beta, and in fact, even some of those who didn't. Let's go to my Steam page. Feel free to add me, by the way. I haven't got many friend lists. Friends. Free. I haven't got many friends. No, I haven't got many friends free on Steam because a lot of people have added me previously. Right, so in order to make sure that multiplayer is going to work for you, the best thing that you can do is right-click on Sins of a Solar Empire, go to Properties, you go to Betas, make sure it says None, opt out of all beta programs here, and once you've done that, go to Local Files, and click Verify Integrity of Game Files. It'll take a minute to check all the game files. It may need to reacquire a file or two. Once it's done that, you should be able to start the mod up and you'll be able to get into multiplayer matches without having any problems. Oh, I lost because my flagship died. Is this a mod? It is, Beach, yes. It is a total conversion mod for Sins of a Solar Empire Rebellion.
Incidentally, I do appreciate any feedback on which abilities feel really boring and underwhelming, especially on capital ships.
Oh,
I have my own
there's
list, but
there's going to be a list of things that Gull has coded.
Well, I mean, I've already fixed all the max balance ones that were brokenly overpowered.
I had a feeling, Devin, that you were Dragon Lever, given that it's flashing up with your name, Danny. Don't message me on Steam, I don't like it. Message me in Discord. Oh, the Mazarites don't have their flag above their ships. That's a bug. Oh no, they do have.
They have the best flag.
Yeah, the Maserati flag. They've also got the fist above that, and I think we need to get rid of that.
Oh, the fist from that's
Stock
the outlaw ships. Yeah.
Yeah, I think we need to get rid of that. I didn't think they were supposed to be there.
It'll appear on outlaw ships specifically. It won't appear on neutrals that spawn in at the start.
Also, Mazarite ships still appear to have the stock warp effects.
Whoops. We'll have to go and shout at Max for that.
Yep. By the way, folks, I don't know if you've paid attention to the stars, but some of the stars that we've got in game are really black hole. Is there a Walker class? Asks Skyno. No, we didn't do that one because we thought the Ares and the Walker were similar enough that it would be surplus to requirement. Message girl on Steam noted. Damn it, Lucian! Why you do this? Cheers, I'll try that. It's a weird error of the game start and then overlay and a message out of sync. Yeah, it is a strange one. We noticed that while trying to do a community game the other day. And my only assumption, because ultimately once you've completed those steps, the mod works fine in multiplayer. So my only guess is that between 1.93 and 1.94, something didn't transfer across correctly. In Sins' base game, and therefore that's the problem that you're having.
It always pays to verify the integrity every now and then anyway. With Sins.
It does. I think if you regularly change mods, sometimes it can upset it, can't it?
Yes.
Right, is there anything else that we want to talk about? Anything on your end, Caesar, that you've been thinking about?
No, not really. My mind is an empty box.
That's it.
Yeah.
Yeah, there are a bunch of things that we're going to be looking at moving forward.
Since I've just zoomed in on them, pirates, we know they're a bit rubbish right now. We'll fix that eventually.
I'll make more
By
of them
we,
happen
I
at
mean
once.
I. Well, one of the big problems that they have at the moment is that they have to fight everything along the way to you. So, particularly early game, that means you might occasionally
I think I fixed that.
Did you?
I think so. Let me check, because I know I made inroads on fixing that.
It's relatively easy. Just give them a research to become friendly with neutrals.
Yeah, I thought I'd done that. Mind you, I didn't give it a base level, so they still have to research it. Maybe I should change that.
It's a bull modifier though, so base level wouldn't do anything. As long as it's researchable, just make it cost nothing.
Player pirate.
But yeah, without that, they tend to occasionally you'll see one heavily damaged interceptor manage to make it to your space, which you promptly blat with a photon torpedo, and that's it for the pirate
res neutral friendlies.
Okay, those are already fixed. Then yeah, we just need more of them. So yes, it will be Gull fixing that. Yay!
Whee! Oh look, I've mini dumped. That'll teach me to sub in and out every 2 seconds. An actual mini dump mod is broken. Take it off the market.
we were selling it.
I was. I don't know about you guys.
Oh, I see how it is.
Yeah, we'll take a look at these pirate raid compositions. We've only got 4 ships, seemingly. Yeah, we've only got 4 ships.
I'll probably have a look at some of the stats on the pirate ships as well, because the interceptor is extra terrible.
It doesn't seem to have much in the way of shields, if anything.
Much, he says, as rocks bounce off the hull, causing major damage. Yeah, giving that shields is probably going to solve some things immediately. And I'll have a look at their weapon types and damages as well.
Oh, got a friend request from Colonus on Steam. Will we respond to that? Where's the bugger off button? And somebody with a rebel flag. All right.
Even more reason to make them bugger off.
Rebel scum.
You rebel scum.
But yeah, so that's where we are at the moment. With regards to our Discord, we are making it pretty. And by we, I mean Caesar. That's something that Caesar's been working on. We've now got distinct sections for Ages of the Federation and Star Trek Armada 3. Hopefully, I don't know if it's already been done. No, not yet. We're going to be putting a pinned message in AOTF bugs that show the things that we already know about as a problem.
Yep.
So it doesn't get reported too many times. And it helps you know what the problems that we know about. Hang on. Does that make grammatical sense? No. It helps you as players know the problems that we are aware of already. There we are. Good.
I think that's good, England.
Englander. I'm a Welshman. I don't understand words.
You make a compelling argument.
Spoiler chat's probably going to go. There we go. Oh, did Orion say that he wanted to join this?
I don't know. He's Australian, so I tend not to pay attention to him.
The AI will still cast cap ship abilities. They will just use them as a player would. So they don't seem to have any problems there. Using a computer to chat and using YouTube to on Switch. What's Switch? Is Switch the new Nintendo sausagery?
I think so.
Okay. Is that any good? Is the Nintendo Switch any good? I think it's Nintendo. Hey girl, my kill streak wrench as what? 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 I don't know.
Calm down, David.
This is probably going to be something to do with Team Fortress 2. Get out of it.
People continuing to speculate about the fourth faction. It's a mystery, isn't it?
It is.
What could it be?
It is. A lot of people already know what the fourth faction is because I'm sure we did dev. We did dev streams ages ago where the fourth faction was actually playable briefly. So
probably.
They probably already know.
But we're still not going to tell them.
But what do we need? Why do we need to hide the Iconians if we know that if they already know they're coming?
Oh, damn it!
Iconia.
You're supposed to keep it secret, Caesar.
They already know it's coming, so I don't have to
safe.
keep it secret. I don't have to keep it safe. I don't need to lock it away in a box.
Don't you?
Internet box.
What's in the box? But yeah, if you guys, any of you have played and have any feedback, take a look at the links in the description below. 1, there is a link to get the mod, and 2, there is a link to the Stellar Parallax Discord. Join the Discord and give us any feedback that you can in AOTF chat. And who's this?
I tend to read the backlog on AFTF chat every day, so that is the best place to put feedback. The mod page is not the greatest spot to put feedback. We tend to only look at it occasionally.
Which one?
The mod page.
I try and look at it daily because I'm obsessed with how many downloads we've got.
That's fair.
And we've had at least 2 now, which is nice.
Excellent. Stream goal successful.
What is all this going on? Ooh, tea. I see that you're looking at the Kobayashi Maru.
I am, not for any particular reason.
Oh, right, okay.
That ability there is a bit rubbish. Energy efficiency.
Ability antimatter cost minus 10%.
It's not bad, it's just boring.
Boring, but bloody useful in prolonged fleet movements, I imagine.
Yeah. I'm going to make it more interesting, though.
Girl, do you not stream on Twitch anymore? Yes, I do. I stream on... at least I try and stream on Twitch fairly regularly. I'm trying to differentiate my content on Twitch with my content on YouTube. Primarily, my YouTube content is likely to be RTS and sci-fi moving forward. And I tend to do other things on Twitch, but what I don't do is I don't stream to both platforms at the same time. It was brought to my attention quite some time ago that Twitch has... as an affiliate with Twitch, which I am, there's a clause in the contract about 2/3 of the way down on the 3rd page, which
very specific.
which says there's an exclusivity clause. So any content that you stream to Twitch, it needs to be exclusive for 24 hours. So that means within the contract I can't stream to both platforms at once. I need to choose one or the other. And I think AOTF is... Or STA3 for that matter. It's best done on YouTube, because that's why I started the YouTube channel in the first place, is to show off mods. Can I ask a question? Says says funny fucker. How do you repair ships? Well, you can repair your ships at the either the frigate yard or the cup yard, depending on what your ship is. You can also repair your ships at certain stations, starbase, excuse me. I think
The logistics starbase has repair.
Yep, logistics. Do we have a repair yard independently as well? I don't think we do we?
No. Although we might end up making one because of reasons.
Oh yeah, there's another thing. We should probably talk about that, shouldn't we?
Should we?
I think we should. We have noted that right now, in fact, since I'm on my boy Echo's screen anyway, we'll have a look there. So this is a shipyard, as many of you know. It's where your ships come from. Right now they're on the tactical screen as Echo's demonstrating. We're probably going to have to move them over. Oh, this is good, to the logistics screen.
I'll do my best.
and the reason that we're going to have to do that is because we have noted that the AI doesn't quite understand. While it does build ships with the ones that it already has, particularly the capital shipyard, it doesn't rebuild them if they're destroyed right now. And that's a bit of a problem.
Yes, it's a massive problem, in fact, because the Sins AI is hard-coded to always want a capital shipyard. If it loses its cap yard, it puts the task to rebuild it at the very top of its task list. And if it can't complete that task, all of the other tasks get put on hold until it can do that.
Don't do nout.
And
so,
since it can't build them on the tactical build menu, because Sins, it breaks the AI completely if you destroy its capital shipyard. Yeah. So, if you want an easy game, snipe their cap yard at their home world.
Now, one thing that we would really, in an ideal world, like to have, and this is, let's go back to player pirate entity. we would be able to surmount this and overcome it if we look at, say, here we go. So frigate info here. You can see that we've got page 0 and page 1, so that's frigates, that's cruisers. And we also have something called not on page here, and you can put ships in here that a player, you or I, we wouldn't be able to see them, but the AI can still spawn them if it chooses to. If we had that on planet module info here, what we would be able to do is, if we had not on page, we would be able to put the dry docks in there, and the AI would still know how to build them, and we wouldn't have a problem. But that's not an option at the moment. It's not something that has been included in planet module buildings.
Yeah, so Blair, if you happen to watch this, please give us not on pages for more things.
I think that's something that's been requested, and I think Blair said
Yes,
he'd have a look at that, didn't he?
I think he did, but I don't know. Hopefully he'll put it.
But then, bless him, we make all sorts of outlandish requests of Blair, and
we do.
He's pretty good to us, to be honest. we shouldn't whinge.
Yes, you should absolutely buy the DLC for this game because it supports the devs who still make things for the game despite it being 10 years old, and they often make things specifically for the modders. So even if you don't like the stock game, buy the DLC because it supports the devs who will support us.
And I think particularly now, I think they Ironclad, I suppose, need support, although they're affiliated, of course, with Stardock. I don't know the ins and outs of it, but I think, given various recent events that they've had, I think the more support they get, the better for if you want future games from them. Probably fair to say, isn't it?
Too.
Like Sins 2. Which we all want, but we, it's going to be based on finance and availability, of course, isn't it? So the more finance that we can make available for them.
Yes, the better.
Buy my loot boxes. That's one thing that they've been pretty good for. They don't do any of that kind of bollocks, do they? To my knowledge.
Indeed.
But yeah, we're quite happy with the feedback that we've received so far. We're quite happy with the changes that we're making. And fingers crossed the next version is going to be quicker to release than the previous development cycle. Are we allowed to talk about that? What the plans are?
I don't know. It's not my plan.
I'm going to.
I think we're allowed to.
So we wanted to specifically give ourselves a release scope for kind of like moving forward, how we're going to release different bits to Ages of the Federation and the way that it works. I'm going to drag this over here.
I think there's a thing on the Dock of Crazy about this.
Yeah, I've actually just opened up the Dock of Crazy and I'm showing people it. I don't know if I'm allowed.
Oh boy,
but
be careful about that. There's some spoilers on there.
Oh God. Everyone knows anyway.
I mean, it is the logical choice, but yeah.
It is. Right, so we can see that we've got open beta 0.75 here. So what we wanted to achieve was the Federation, Klingon faction, neutrals, and 5 minor faction. Release 2, we're tentatively calling it 0.76 because the first one is 0.75. Is fix any bugs that we come across to. We want to put an Orion and a Riemann minor faction in. Create some new maps. Fix any outstanding UI problems that we have right now. Get rid of that because that's me being facetious. We wanted to fix the shipyard shenanigans, which we've just talked about, and we wanted to put some more random events in. Zindi Small Probe, neutral trader ships event like it is in STA3, maybe a Narada event. Doomsday Machine event, which will be different to the one in SDA3. Be a damaged Doomsday Machine that can't attack planets in the same way. Spatial anomalies. There was a particular episode where the Enterprise was going through a load of spatial distortions. And we're going to try and make a random event that travels around that does something similar to your ships. Does funny things to them. An identified probe that looks a little bit like Nomad. And an asteroid event, so it's an asteroid coming towards your planet. That's the release scope for 0.76. And we think we can get that done in a relatively short period of time. I can't give a date on that. Of course I can't, because we all do this in our spare time. But that's what the oh god, he's typing.
Yeah, I need to do that for that release as well.
Oh yeah, there you go, cool. So that'll be the next release scope. There might be a 0.77, 0.78, we don't know yet. But release 0.8 is going to be the Romulan faction, more minor factions, a couple more events and additional maps. We haven't got that mapped out fully as we have in 0.76 yet, but we'll be working on that.
It will probably depend partially on feedback as well.
Yeah. The Romulan Titan is indeed the TOS bird of prey.
It's in already. You can show it off.
I suppose I could.
It's also the only Romulan ship that has custom voices.
Oh my.
At the moment. Anyway, they'll all get them eventually.
Oh, hey Mukal, how you doing? Yeah, to be honest with you, I think the only reason that we've we've been coy about the fourth faction is because we're kind of doing it for the lols at this point, really, aren't we?
Yeah. We're not going to confirm it, even though everybody knows, until it's released.
Until 1 year after it's released.
Oh yes, naturally. In fact, we'll release it and then we'll continue speculating about what the fourth faction could be, even when it's actually in people's hands.
Another thing to talk about is the difficulty scaler, which I don't think we've approached yet.
It's not my fault.
We'll try and look at that insofar as we're able to, folks. One of the problems that we have at the moment is, and this is a problem with stock sins as well, is since 1.93, I think, but also in the current 1.94 of sins, the easy and normal AI is extremely lethargic. It doesn't research it doesn't research a lot of its research tree. It doesn't build as many ships as we would like, even in stock, as I say. So in order to try and compensate for that in some way, shape or form, we've got what you might describe as a super secret AI only research. And what that means is there are a bunch of buffs that the AI can research, and they do early on because it's right there at the start. But they're outside of the player's field of view. They're too low to be seen. You can't choose that as a research, but the AI knows where it is because, of course, it sees all, and it researches that early on. That gives it a load of buffs. It allows it to research things a little bit faster. It gives it a little bit of extra income, and I believe it also makes it turns their capital ships into research labs as well, in order to facilitate their research.
Many of these things are needed, but some of them might be tuned a little too high right now.
And the trouble that we are having as a difficulty scaler is the curve. It peaks very, very early on, because what happens is hard mode and anything harder than that, the AI gets hard-coded cheats anyway. And those hard-coded cheats specifically is it gets some free research anyway, and it also gets a load of resources for free. And if you take that and you also add the cheats that we've given the AI, then it means that difficulty scalar, it goes to a very quick peak very fast. So you find that if you're playing on cruel or vicious mode, it's so difficult that the AI becomes almost unbeatable because of all the buffs that it seems to get. So we will try and look at that. It's difficult for us to do, though, because in order to make the AI usable at normal mode, we need some of those buffs in there.
Yeah.
It's going to be a fun balancing act. We'll do a good amount of testing and see. Change galaxy. Pawn ship. Active player. Titan. Romulan. Bird of prey. There it is.
What do you require?
Oh, she sounds very disappointed.
Yeah. Some of her lines are very sounding like she's incredibly bored.
I like it. I think that works with Romulans quite well. We haven't given them their own fighters yet.
No. Don't think the shuttle's model.
So that's your Romulan Titan. I'm quite looking forward to seeing what we can do with her.
I have no idea what it's going to do yet. I have not concepted the abilities for that one yet. But it will be scary and janky as Romulan things are.
One thing that some people have noted is some people have noted that they feel that the Titans particularly are less detailed, perhaps, than some of the other ships that we have. For example, the Constitution and the D7 are both less detailed, as I would argue is the Romulan Titan. The reason for that is because they are based on some of the original TOS source material. And what we didn't want to do is we didn't want to be... I suppose we didn't want to disrespect the original source material by changing them too much. We've tried to give them a little bit of additional detail with hull Aztecing and more hull lines than they originally had, but they were all kind of plastic moulded models, weren't they?
Yeah.
Which does mean that they had a slightly different reflectivity. The reflectivity is quite dull on the original Star Trek models. So, like, I can spawn in a Connie as well.
Starfleet's best and brightest standing by.
And they tended to be a lot less colourful as well.
They did. So what we tried to do with the Connie is, despite the fact that it is those kind of duller, more washed out colours, we've given it additional hull detail on the top, and we've tried to do the best that we can with it. But we didn't want to remove it too far from the source material. I suppose I could spawn a D7 since we're here as well.
Why not? The Constitution, incidentally, is another ship that's abilities rather dull.
Are you going to have a look at those as well,
I am planning on probably more reworking entirely several of those. It's going to take a little while, but eventually. The D7 is a good example of where I want Titans to be with their abilities. It's got several different ways you can spec it, depending on what you want to do with it. And it's potentially extremely disruptive in its impact on a fleet battle. Or you can just make it deal all of the damage if that's what you so want to do.
I like that torpedo sound.
Yeah.
There she is, the Enterprise. It's not the Enterprise, it's just a Constitution.
I'm not sure if you can actually call it the Enterprise. I don't think you can.
But this one doesn't appear to have a name.
I believe we're still suffering from the Enterprise thing.
Actually, I can't even rename it. Oh, hang on.
Yeah, it's still stuck on USS Enterprise. Please give us more letters in the naming box. Please.
The good news
Sims.
is you can call it Bob Geldof should you choose to. But no, we've got a unique voice for the Connie. It's not Kirk. Kirk wouldn't have captained a Connie at this point.
Neither would Pike, in fact.
No, neither would Pike. Quite. I think he served. I suppose towards the end of its reign, he could have just started captaining. Did he serve aboard the Enterprise for 9 years before he became the captain? I think. I think he did.
What do you require?
Yeah, does anybody, before I let the stream go, now that we've discussed, I think we've discussed everything that we wanted to, really, haven't we?
Yeah, and more, I think.
Does anybody have any questions that they want to ask? Otherwise, I'm going to let you all go. And hope that the waffle today has given you a bit of an insight into the things that we found out since the initial release and where we want to go.
Silence.
I'm looking at ships, sorry. It's a bad habit in this mod. I get fixated on the ships.
It's so pretty.
Mind you, I think a lot of mods are now. I think mods for Sins have come a long way. People have been really stretching the limits.
I maintain that this is the golden age of Sims modding now.
Now that the engine is crying and dying.
Yes.
Now that no one's around to actually play the mods.
Yeah, whatever.
Cries.
Minor inconveniences.
Oh! Zindi Primate Corvette. Write this down in the bug list.
What's wrong with it?
Incorrect muzzle flashes. It's got green muzzle flashes.
Mod is unplayable. We gotta take the download away now.
I hate this mod so much. Green muzzle flashes with blue weapons. Bullshit is this? Folks, I hope you've enjoyed this brief stream today. I'll try and keep you updated. I know that Max is intending to start doing his development streams again soon, so we will let you know about that, and that'll be on the Stellar Parallax channel, both Twitch and YouTube. If you've joined the Discord server, which I told you to do, asked you politely. Join it, fucking join it. I asked you politely to join earlier. Then you'll be able to find the Stellar Parallax channels. I would request politely again, telling you, to follow it. Follow said channels so you can see live updates on what we're doing. How many friends can you have on Steam? I think that changes depending on your level on Steam. Specifically, I don't know how many friends I can have on Steam. There's probably a way to find out. I'm not going to bother doing it now. Folks, I will see you soon. Thank you very much for watching.